Hello, Augies Worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, here with another episode of Ask Dave. Today we're going to take a look at a couple digital voltmeters that have been sent to me by Venlab. This one, digital multimeter, they're different model numbers. This one right here is the MV-500A, and this one is the MV-200M. Now, I've reviewed a number of digital multimeters on the channel. This is your classic Harbor Freight thing right here. And it is a very standard digital multimeter. It is not auto-ranging. It's got volts, ohms, milliamps. It will also test diodes and so on. Okay? And this little thing, which costs less than $10 at Harbor Freight, is probably perfectly adequate for very nearly anything that you would do in your ham shack, unless you're doing tubes or something like that. It's cheap. Now, this is not a true RMS reading, but I cannot remember the last time I needed the true RMS value of a waveform. If I need that, I get it right here on my oscilloscope. It will read out for me the true RMS. Or I can use this. This is the meter I actually use the most. I keep it up here in my ham station along with my tiny spectrum analyzer. And this is a auto-ranging meter that measures volts, millivolts, ohms, diode forward with a sound if it's connectivity and some capacitance. And then it will measure temperature with a separate probe. It's a frequency measuring device, microamps, milliamps, amps, and so on. It's a nice little meter. The one drawback I have on this, you have to turn it off, of course, after it's done. It's easy to do, and this one's got a separate on-off switch. But you have to pull this over to off. This has a 9-volt battery in it, which tend to be expensive. And I am forever going through this because I leave this on. It doesn't shut itself off properly. Other meters that I have is a pen-type multimeter. This is the ST120 from, let's see, Kaiwitz, and it's in a video Ask Dave 745. I review this meter. This is another one from Kaiwitz, and it's Ask Dave 741. This one has a particularly interesting capability. If you stick this little plastic probe into an outlet, it doesn't touch the outlet, but it will tell you if the outlet is live. I'm talking about a 110-volt outlet. Okay, so we'll set those aside and take a look at the two multimeters. This is the smaller box, so we'll open this one first. Okay, this is the Venlab. It's a true RMS meter. It doesn't have the batteries in it yet. It's got the batteries right here. So we'll use this handy knife to split this open because these are hard to get open. Now we have to put these in. Unfortunately, putting them in requires a screwdriver. So we'll take this out on the back. All right. Now, I like the fact that this is AA's, and we'll use the ones they provided, because these are much less expensive than 9-volt batteries. Now, it would be nice if this snapped into place, but it does not. Okay. And so we'll put this back in here. Then we'll go ahead and it's off. Let's measure some, this is AC voltage. Now this will go up to 600 volts for like checking plate supply and stuff like that, whereas the Harbor Freight only goes up to 250 volts DC. Now this is AC voltage, and also you've got over here DC. Now let's measure using the probes. These are your classic modern probes that have got safety sleeves on the plug-ins, meaning that you've got this plastic around it, okay? So this will go in here into the volt ohm milliamps and the comm. Okay, and we have right here from the little Pavono power supply, which I also reviewed. By the way, these should come off. There. And there, if you need more ability to hook these to this, okay, this is what the power supply claims is 13.8 volts. Let's go down with the fine 13.8, and we get 13.77, which is very close to 13.8, okay? Now we're going to measure amps, and amps is over here. It will go to 10 amps. We've got to put this over on the other one, and we measure 2.22 amps. This is putting out 2.23 amps. This thing can be either a voltage or a current. No, notice, don't do this normally unless you're very sure it's under 10 amps, because you will blow the fuse inside. You'll have to open it up. There's usually a replaceable fuse for that. Okay, so we'll go back over here to volts, connect that back up there. And so this looks a lot like the Harbor Freight. There is a light, which is very nice, okay? And there's a hold. So if we put this not on the, let's take this out. You should probably disconnect while changing ranges. 20 volts, okay, there's 13.8. You can hit hold and then take these connectors off, and it holds your voltage for you so that you can read it out. Note that the decimal point is way down over here. Okay, so let's take a look at all the things it can do, probably by reading the manual here. It's a pretty thick manual. It's in many languages. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pages 6, 7, and that's it. That's what you've got for your manual. It's got ranges here for the counts and stuff like that. The data and the resolution that you've got on these things. Resolution is not the same as accuracy. Here's your accuracy. And overload protection here, okay? Input impedance is 10 megohms. That's better than the old vacuum tube voltmeters. It's very good. It does not load your circuit. That's the important thing, okay? AC voltage, DC current, resistance. HFE is a transistor. This right down here is a transistor tester. It just gives you HFE, which is one of the many parameters for transistors. Okay, and it will give you diode and audible continuity. Okay, so if we see how we get to that, we come down. Well, let's take this off. It is, oh, we had a hold there. Okay, take it down here to continuity. When you have continuity, it will give you the ohms, 0.2 there, and it give you an audible beep so you can hear if things are continuous, which is very handy if you are working on a circuit and you don't know whether the thing is getting through. You can check cables, center to center, shell to shell, and so on, and also make sure the shell and the center are not shorted to each other. So this is a nice little inexpensive voltmeter. Toward the end, we'll have the Amazon page for this so you can see how much it costs. And it is almost directly competing with this little Harbor Freight, although this says true RMS. So let's turn this to off, and we'll just set it in here along with this and set it out. Oh, we want to keep these. What these are for is if you're doing probing inside a circuit. See how long that is? You can put this cover over it, so don't lose these. And then that's all that is exposed right there. It's just that little bit. So that's very handy from a safety point of view, and these things are easy to lose. I would suggest you keep your multimeter in the box. Oops, what have we got going on? So I would rate this instrument a buy. It certainly does work well. Now let's go to the next one. This is a fancier one, okay? This is the Venlab VM-500A. Okay, we again have the black and white probes, but in addition to that, we have a temperature probe. Okay, which is where that's that little thing right there. Some fuses. That's nice to get the extra fuses. Okay, this one takes 3 double A's. I'm sorry, 3 triple A's. Okay, now this looks quite a step up. It looks very similar to this in terms of its capabilities. Okay, let's see what we've got here. This right here, let's get the batteries in first. Oh, magnets. Put this on something steel, and it'll hold on something steel. That's pretty cool. Okay, so I think the batteries are going to be located under here. Oh, the whole thing comes off. Okay. Here's our 3 little batteries. The AAAs are actually more expensive than AAs are. So I almost wish they'd put 3 AAs in here instead of 3 AAAs. But these are readily available and nowhere near as expensive as a has a 9-volt battery. Oh, these people do love their wrappings, don't they? Okay, now what this is for is so you can lean it up like that if it makes it easier if you're working on something to have the voltmeter like that. Okay, let's go ahead and take the test for these leads. And we'll put the red one in the normal place for the red. And this one in the normal place for the common. COM is common. Okay, this is a fancier voltmeter. Let's turn it on. This is the non-contact voltage testing. And EF. I'll have to look and see how that works. Okay, now we can go to volts. And this is automatic. We'll pull these things off again. So it's 13.8, 13.7 there. 13.75. Let's just take this up to 13.8. Oops, that's over 14. 13.8 is the usual power supply voltage. And this measures actually a fourth digit out here. Okay, now this, you've got hertz. In other words, you can measure frequency. This switches between, you press the function button, I believe, to go between the continuity, resistance, capacitance, and a diode check. And then right here, if you want to limit it to 1.59 or 12 volt, this is a checking the battery. Let's set this for a fully charged battery will be around there. So let's see what happens if we put this over to 12 volts, 12.61, 12.6. Okay, this is checking the voltage of a battery. Why can't you just do the voltage check? Well, of course you can. Milliamps, amps, and Fahrenheit. Let's just plug this little thing in and see what happens with it. I'm just going to assume that it will test room temperature. There is that's 36 centigrade. Let's see how we change that. 86 Fahrenheit. It is not 86 Fahrenheit in here. Not anywhere near 86 Fahrenheit. What happens if I hold that? Oh my goodness. I'm not that warm. I don't have a fever. Well, I don't see the accuracy here that I see from other things. Here's just the room temperature again. Okay, let's take a look at the manual for it. We've got, how much of the manual? Half of the manual is English, the other half Chinese. Okay, so it shows you how to make the different types of measurements. 1, flashlight. 2, no CV sensor. Okay, let's put this back on NCV and put it over here next to this. So that's telling us that this is live, which is very handy to know. Now, I doubt very much that this is going to pick up much from here. What I'm going to do is turn this to a current source. It's not checking up the low voltages. Okay. So this will tell you the presence of voltage, so you can tell if the circuit breaker is really off and so on. Got a variety of functions you can do. There is even a flashlight. That's handy if you're trying to work in some circuit area or something. Not terribly bright. Okay. Functions. AC voltage. DC current. AC. These are all autos. Okay. And the hold button, which is a really nice little thing. Okay, and it will also measure the 10 amps. Let's just make sure that. We'll go over to amps. And we'll plug these in. The common. Now the amps is a max of 10 amps. But this thing won't put out 10 amps. It switches to current mode if you short it, which we're going to do with this. 2.24 amps and 2.23 amps, very close. Okay, very nice. I like this little meter. This is nice. Very nice meter. Okay, so let's turn it off like we have to do with all these electronic things and so on. Oh, let's summarize. All right, so what we've done is taken a look at a couple Venlab meters, and I'm impressed by both of them. The 200M is just your basic multimeter, and it is very much like the Harbor Freight one here, except it says it will do true RMS. The Venlab 500A is a much more sophisticated meter with auto ranging, temperature, which I think you'd want to calibrate there because it seemed a little high to me. But it'll go up very high in temperature. And it also, auto ranging, I think I mentioned, got a lot of different functions on it, has a flashlight inside. You can also light the screen in there. This is a very nice little meter. So we're going to take a look at the, look for the Venlab 200M. Okay, here it is. This is the Venlab for $11.99, but note here that you can get it in this style right here. So these are the two multimeters we just tested. This one's $12, this one's $22. If you can afford the extra $10, go with the 500A. It's a more sophisticated meter. It'll give you a lot more. So you'd click on that, and then see, once you click on it, you get the other one in here, and you can buy now or add to the chart. Okay, so there you have it, a couple of very capable multimeters, and we did a couple simple tests, both checking the current through them and the voltage for a typical ham radio application, which would be 13.8 volts. And we found that of the two meters that we selected, the VM-200M and the VM-500A, this is about $12. It's about $22. I'd go for the bigger one if you can, although the other one will work fine for you. The first one competes with the Harbor Freight. This one competes very favorably with this, which was about $89. So many years ago. These things get less expensive with time. So every shack needs a multimeter to check if there's voltage coming out of your power supply, if your coax is connected properly. All of those things you do with a multimeter. So grab one of them and add it to your shack. I think you will not be disappointed. I will point out that these two were sent to me from Venlab for testing. I'll probably give these away in a future giveaway. Well, I'm going to keep one of them, the one I really like. So there you have it. Until we next meet, 73.